What is up YouTube, Zaris here with a brand new video for you guys. Now in this video I'm going to be breaking down OpTic Halo's performance in the Burbank qualifying online events yesterday. Now for those of you who don't know, yesterday there was this huge 16 pro team online qualifying event where the top 8 teams would qualify for the Burbank qualifiers next week. Now the 16 pro team tournament consisted of 16 of the top pro teams that are expected to perform very well this season, so there was a lot of action that went down yesterday. Now I was planning on breaking down all 8 of the teams that qualified, but to be completely honest, that takes a lot of work and that's going to be super long for me to do, and I honestly don't have enough time to do all of that. So I figured, because of a comment that someone made to me, that I should just break down OpTic Gaming's performance, because apparently a lot of people in this channel are huge fans of OpTic Gaming, and I'm a pretty big OpTic Gaming fan myself, so I figured it was just best if I just did that. Also, not to mention, they're doing pretty good this season, so I figured, you know, I can't really go wrong with breaking down a good team. Now, although OpTic Gaming only had to play 2 games in this tournament, these 2 games really did say a lot about what this team could do as a whole. Now, their first match against Indecisive wasn't really that much of an entertaining one. I mean, it was really just a pure out domination for OpTic Gaming, so really nothing much to take from that. But their match against Renegades in the finals was actually a very important one for OpTic Gaming, for them to like solidify themselves that they are a top team that can keep with the best. In this series, you were able to see just how OpTic Gaming could really dismantle Renegades as a team. I felt like there was a lot of situations where Renegades was solely thriving off of just pure adrenaline and just pure momentum, and literally in some maps, for example CTF on Truth, there were certain situations where OpTic Gaming just held so much control over Renegades, and then Renegades tried to, you know, thrive off of this little momentum boost where, you know, they may pull a flag and capture one flag and then hopefully ride off of that. But OpTic Gaming's this team is just so good and so talented slaying wise, they're easily able to just cut down that momentum and really dismantle this Renegades team. You know, OpTic Gaming, I'm gonna be completely honest, I felt like OpTic Gaming was superior in pretty much all areas against Renegades, both slaying, objective, and teamwork. The only situation where I would think that Renegades was a little bit better than OpTic Gaming was overall communication. But to be completely honest, I felt like the communication was a little bit off from both teams. I felt like both teams could have really improved in that area, but pretty much everything else OpTic Gaming was really good in. I was also really impressed in how Ace filled in the role as a leader for this team, at least vocally. He really was able to point out all the things that this team needs to improve in, and he was the first one to critique this team. So to have your own teammates, you know, right after the game, you know, critique the whole entire team and tell everybody, you know, what we all need to improve in, that's very important, because the last thing you want to do is, you know, if you get a sloppy victory and, you know, right after the game you automatically congratulate each other and you completely avoid all the negatives. Although it's very important to stay positive in a series, you also always want to critique those little things that you know your team could improve in. Obviously, you don't want to, you know, bash players out and stuff like that, but it's very important that teams, you know, don't just completely ignore the negatives that they have. You want to really improve off of those negatives and turn those negatives into positives, so that way your team's as good as possible. So that's very good on Ace's part. One of my biggest concerns for OpTic Gaming is actually the same thing that I critiqued them on in my last video about OpTic Gaming, about how, you know, they just completely, I feel like they're kind of like, this team's kind of split when it comes to what their thoughts on slaying is when it comes to these Slayer matches. Like I said before, Straight Stick and Maniac are super hyper aggressive Slayers who don't really pay attention or listen to communication. I think when it comes to them slaying, I feel like they just get lost in their own minds and just do their own thing. And although in some situations that's kind of good in like some heavy slaying maps, but, you know, when it comes to slow-paced slaying, you know, you really got to listen to your team, and communication's super important when it comes to these slow-paced slaying maps. So that's where I feel OpTic Gaming really falls in, and we saw that with Renegades, how sometimes OpTic Gaming looks like they were going to win certain matches, and then they just kind of fall off. They kind of like split, I guess, like when it comes to like chemistry or communication and stuff like that, and they just kind of just give up a whole entire lead and just give up a whole entire game. And I felt like in a lot of times OpTic Gaming really gave up a lot of games against Renegades, and I feel like if OpTic Gaming were to just give it their all and really play at their best, they could have probably easily 4-0'd this team, to be completely honest with you. I do not think Renegades was in any position to really take on OpTic Gaming that match. Overall, this was still a very big win for OpTic Gaming. They qualified for the Burbank qualifiers next week, and, you know, these next few weeks are going to be very important for OpTic Gaming. Hopefully, if OpTic Gaming does well in the Burbank qualifiers, they'll qualify for the Pro League, which takes a huge weight off of their shoulders, and, you know, obviously allows them to prepare for, you know, their matches against CLG and their matches against Evil Geniuses, which are currently the only 2 teams that qualified for the Pro League. So hopefully OpTic Gaming really builds off of this win and really is able to gain some momentum coming to the qualifiers, and once again does very well. I'm very confident in this team. If you ask me, the top 3 teams right now are Counter Logic Gaming, Evil Geniuses, and OpTic Gaming. All of the other teams, I'm not going to, count them out just yet, but I do feel like a lot of these other teams are have a lot of problems that they need to work on. For example, Team Liquid. Team Liquid did qualify for the Burbank qualifiers, but when I saw them play, they're like super disorganized. They have so much stuff that they need to work on when it comes to map position, that if you have any of these mistakes when you play against a team like CLG, you're just gonna get destroyed, to be completely honest. And although OpTic Gaming does have a lot of problems, I'm not trying to be biased here, I do feel like a lot of these problems that OpTic Gaming has are kind of just small little communication problems that I think could be fixed with just a couple more, days of just practicing with each other and building that chemistry. So I feel like out of all the other teams right now, OpTic Gaming is the most prepared to take on, these 2 teams, Evil Geniuses and CLG. And of course, with Flamesword coming back to the OpTic house to coach this team, I'm pretty sure this team is going to be giving it the raw in these next few days of practice to be prepared for these Burbank qualifiers. So it's going to be a very busy day very busy few days for not only OpTic Gaming, but everybody that has qualified for the Burbank qualifiers. And I wish everybody the best of luck. If you liked this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to follow me on Twitter. Hope you have a great day.